Hello, Imaginers. It's Kyla Martin, coaching you to the career and life that you imagined. And I'm wrapping up a 3-part series as we start to get back to the new normal. So in the first video, I talked about reset and how our brain lives to stay in the fear. Unfortunately, we learned a lot of fear over the last year and it built a habit for that. So we have to slowly take some steps to get out of that fear. And then in last week's episode, I talked about creating a picture of happiness. And I talked about using your brain to just dream and think about what would you want on that picture. And in this week's episode, I'm going to give you a few questions that you can use to take that joy picture into application and also give you some actionable tips to implement. I'm also going to be including a downloadable worksheet. If you're on my email list, you can get that worksheet and that will help you, again, continue to take this work to implementation ultimately. So sign up for my weekly email. If you're not on that list, just go to kylamartinconsulting.com and click on the inspiration tab and get signed up. So again, we want to take that joyful, beautiful happiness picture that we started to draw last week and take it to implementation. And part of the way we do that is you probably, if you were drawing your picture last week or you were scrapbooking your picture, however you did it, you probably kind of had some vague ideas in mind, but maybe they weren't specific things about what your picture of happiness looks like. So I want to give you a couple questions that you can use to, again, get some further clarity. So one question is, what is something that you've done over the last year that you really loved? And it could have been something that you had kind of put aside for a while. I know for me, I got a lot more back to nature this year. And because of that, I got back into more photography, which I hadn't done in several years, kind of more seriously. And a lot of nature photography, as you can imagine. So I started thinking about, I made more time for this. I really enjoyed this. And so I want to do more of that, right? Another question that can be helpful is, what is something you want to do more of that you're not? So you might have found some things on your picture of happiness that you want to make some space for, but they don't kind of exist in your life right now. And so those could be some things that you rediscovered last year, or just some things that you, as you spent some time maybe over the past year thinking about things, what are some things that you want to incorporate more of? Another thing that I realized last year is that I cooked a lot more. A lot of restaurants were closed, and now that's become a habit. And that has been something that, of course, has resulted in some healthier habits as well. And so that's something that I want to keep doing. But I have to make space for these, both of these areas and any other areas that I've thought about I want to add back into my life in the coming year. And so 2 ways I want to give you to do that, because we oftentimes have a vision for something that we want to do, plans, but we don't actually implement them because life starts to happen, right? And so 2 things that you can do. One is actually put some time on your calendar. And I will tell you that I talked last week about adding rest on my calendar first. The other thing that I add on my calendar next is sort of these joy times. And that helps my cup stay full. That helps me feel inspired and rejuvenated. And so those are just as important as other things that I give myself a check mark for. And so I put them on my calendar. And then the other thing I do that can be helpful is my brain sometimes, as that time comes up on my calendar, my brain will say, you don't want to spend time doing this. You've got more important work to do. And so with the to-do, the joy time on my calendar, I also put a little note that reminds my brain why I put this on my calendar. So maybe in parentheses, fills my cup, gives me some space to have some inspiration, gets me back to tactile things. Whatever the reason is that you enjoy these moments, you might want to put that on your calendar with the joy time, because then when that time comes up, you can remind your lower brain that is trying to just get things done and check boxes and stay alive, which our lower brain tries to tell us all the time, just do things to stay alive. Then you can remind it what your higher brain came up with and the reason that this is so important. So I hope that helps you take some of the elements of your picture of happiness and some of the reset that you're starting, and gives you a way to apply it. Again, if you want the full download worksheet that you can use for this process, then just get signed up for my newsletter. And as always, if you want to take this work further, I would love to set up a consult with you. In my practice, we work on 3 things. We work on uncovering and identifying your zone of genius for your life, for your career. Then we work on understanding your fears around that. What are the obstacles standing in your way? That could be some belief systems that you have. We work on identifying and deciding if those serve us, and if they don't, how we want to beautifully shed them. And then the third step is creating an action and implementation plan, because we know that that's actually the final critical step to taking the steps of the first 2 steps and actually putting it to work. Check out my website at Kyla Martin Consulting to set up a free consult. There's a contact form, and I would love to set up some time with you to learn more about your journey and any way that I can help you. And as always, you know that I'm cheering you on to the career and life that you imagined. Go take a small step this week. Take care, everyone.